Yes, Mr. Chair, the witness is being brought in.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Mr. Mbai.
Mr. Mbai, ñu ngi la dalalat.
We have gone in your testimony as far as the point of your dismissal.
Waxtaane nañ sa mbiri seede gi ba jamono bi nga xam ne ci lañ la dàq ci liggéey bi.
And the reactions of some individuals that you chose to mention.
Ak it ni nga xam ne noonu la ko ñu ci bari gisee nag comme ni nga ko feeñalee.
But you are not only dismissed, and that ended the matter. Certain other things happened.
Emul rek nek ne dañ la dàq rek mbiri em foofu de am na yeneen yu xew tamit.
Could you tell us about that?
Rek ñu mën a wax mbir moomu naka la.
Thank you very much, Lead Counsel.
Jërëjëf, Lead Counsel.
But I would, before finishing with Uncle Sam Jones.
Yes, please.
Ñu jeexal ak Uncle Sam Jones.
After he wrote that article, the serving of ministers of government, must it always be those, which I referred to earlier.
Gannaaw bu mu bindee nag loolu ci wàllu dàq ak ministre yi.
Uncle Sam and his family, his wife,
moom ak soxnaam.
were for many nights
ci ay guddi yu bari.
being harassed with heavy stones thrown on their roof.
dañ dee ñëw di leen xatal yu métti di leen jam ay xeer ci seen kaw néeg.
By who?
We didn't know who.
xamuñ ñan na ko daan def.
To the extent that eventually
ba mujjee gi.
he had to go to England with his wife.
dafa mujjee génn fii dal di dem England ak soxnaam.
where they stayed until they died.
foofu lañ nekk na benn dee.
I remember when he would call me in the house.
maa ngi fàttaliku su ma oowaan di léegoo léegi ci kër gi.
and ask me about my childhood. The questions I used to ask my parents. What were they?
Suma time xaleel yan laajte laa daan laaj sumay wayjur.
And he was always very keen.
Saay bu ne daf daan itte lool.
And absorbed with the answers, with the questions I used to ask. That attracted me to him very much. And I would say, I used to ask my mother, ndax ganaar dina dee 7?
I used to ask him, and
my mother would call my father and say, ask the question, ask your father.
And Mr. Mbai, what was the response?
Yes, my dad would say, limo gene ak 7 ñoy anda.
Very smart one.
And sometimes I would ask, why should a car overtake a truck? Because a truck is heavier, it's more powerful. Mr. Jones was interested in my childhood and my development.
Mr. Jones,
Sir Counsel, so was Kutoke Fafa in Armitage. I was bugging him. It's the same kind of questions. I was a small boy rascal around him all the time in Armitage, and that hasn't changed. He knows it. Anytime I see him still, just do that, asking him.
Yes.
So he really got it also.
Yes, we were in the same house, Hamlin Kunda. And Saunders, you were in Saunders. I was in Hamlin, but Hamlin was the best Kunda. This is just a digress on it. I was Abdullah Sise. Abdullah Sise later became Dr. Abdullah Sise, was in Form 1. I was in Form 2. Ibrahim Ajeng was in Form 3. Shirif Sise was in Form 4. And Bakari Bojan was in Form 5. Now, Abdullah Sise would take first in class, I will take first not only in class, but in every subject in class. And Ibrahim Ajeng would take first. Sirif Sise, former Minister of Finance, would take first in Form 4. And Bakari Bojang, the Chief of Pirkama, would take first in Form 5. So all the first person would be Hamlin Kunda. Then Uncle Sam would ask how I started reading.
Uncle Sam, I
told him, and he said, in Armitage, I said, when I was in Armitage School, when classes break for the vacation, especially during the rainy season, I would go home with some of my textbooks. T.R. Batin, City of the British Empire. And my mother had a small hut. And we'll put fire in the middle of the hut. Now lie down on this Toboski ram skin that have been dried. And I'll be reading my book and stoking the fire. Because I enjoyed what I memorized a whole book reading under a fire. Not candlelight. These were the things that New Zealand did not know. But Armitage did know. And Lamin is a witness.
How about the his? The his, was that part of it also, the package?
Part of the?
You remember those things they used to give? Yes,
my father had that.
That was part of the package?
Yes, he would write it during moonlight, between the 1st and the 14th of the month, and would put it out openly. And you have to use, when a good delivers, the force,
milk.
How do you call it?
Milk.
You get the milk before they suckle it. And that's what you used to mix with it. And he would tell Amar Gay Shoshe, who was my first teacher at Armitage, when he visited my family, and that was part of it. And that has been turned on to the kids like Omar and the others. But not as effectively as I had, because I had doses of that many times.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
then I go, and that was just a short digression.
That's right. So now let's go about to the issues, the things that happened to you after you have been dismissed.
Yes, detention at Banjul Police Station.
Banjul Police Station.
One Saturday afternoon, whilst I was in my chambers at Hill Street, I received a call from one Ibrahim Abba, a police officer at the Serious Crime Unit in Banjul, that he wanted to see me before I returned home. A little after 5 p.m. that evening, I walked to the Banjul Police Station to see Officer Ba. He was not in, but had left word for me to wait for him. When he eventually came back, he kept walking in and out for some time, and then abruptly told me that I was under arrest and would have to be detained until the Monday morning to appear before the Alkali Commission. I was devastated. He said he could grant me bail if I had a surety who would deposit a property title deed. I called my former Amity school teacher and friend, Mr. Enes Zenjai, Ndondi Enes Zenjai. Who came to the police station and I explained the situation. He left and came back with the title deed to his property at Bakau. But Officer Bass said he wanted a surety with 2 properties. Title deeds of 2 properties. After a while, I called Uncle Emi Ndur. And he came to the police station and brought 2 property deeds.
Mr. Mbai, did you find this request reasonable?
It was quite only, and the terrible nature of it will come a little later. Onkundur came with the property deeds of 2 of his properties. In Clarkson Street, immediately after the junction from Independence Drive. Clarkson Street. And Independence Drive, where Sonko Jileng is, that is his property. But Officer Bass said no, he wanted 2 sureties, each 2 property deeds. Ngundu left and came back with Alaji Modupol. Each of them brought property deeds to 2 properties. Then Bass started walking in and out. Eventually he left. Never came back. Between 11 o'clock and midnight, Ngundur, who was in his 90s and feeling very distressed, had to leave. He went with Modupol. The next day, Officer Ba escorted me to the Algali Commission at the law courts. But before the next morning, at that night, I called my nephew, Aliou Mbai, who was staying with me and already worried that they didn't see me. I didn't return home. So come to the Banjul police station and collect my car key and go to Heath Street in front of my office where I've parked the car to drive it home. I was detained at the Banjul police station until Monday morning when I was escorted by Officer Ba to the Algali Commission. The report in the newspapers was that I have a tax liability of $4 million. I'll show you where it is published in the newspapers. And I was granted bail by the police.
How was that
the surety of?
How was that tax liability assessed?
No, I'll come to the surety.
Come to that.
Yeah, the surety of Malamin Jani. And Jani, you stood surety for me at the police station for $4 million. I remember from there we drove to his house in Bakau Cape Point. And a family member asked him, ni Fafa borita du su Fafa dawe nak how about if su Fafa dawe ñu japp ma.
He said that when Fafa absconded, let them arrest me.
That was the level of his commitment to stand for me.
Now
at the commission, the conclusion of the commission was that my tax liability is $1.5 million. I had already paid tax for the period. And by the analysis made by Panelka Foster, it was found that my tax was overpaid $50,000. Yet the commission came to the conclusion that I owe $1.5+ million. And that at the commission I have to find a surety to stand bail for me. Alaji A.M. Drame, lawyer, was president of the bar.
Alaji A.M. Drame, nga xamne mo nekkon president mbotay lawyer yi.
Stood for it for me.
Mom moma taxawon.
But he said he withdrew, after a short time he withdrew the surety because as a lawyer he could not stand bail for me.
Ci dir bu gatt nak dafa génné nak taxawayam ci pour bail ma ndax mom lawyer.
I had to go around Banjul.
Madame wër Banjul
with a police escort.
Ak police mu and ak man.
To Alaji Mari Tambadou.
Ci Alaji Mari Tambadou.
at his office in Bokul Street.
Ci office am bi nekkee ci Bokul Street.
Who, after consultation with his son Sirif Tambedou,
gannaaw boo xam ne disoon na ak doomam Sirif Tambedou,
agreed to be my surety.
mu nangu nag ne dana ma nekkal suma.
And deposited a property deed for my bill.
Kayiti këram pour ñu bill ko.
That was how I was able to go home that day.
Noonu laa mënoon a demee bés boobu.
I sought to challenge the tax liability.
ma fexewoon na pour dinga nag naama yooyu ñu ne lañ loolu laa leb.
But was required to pay 1/2 of the amount.
waaye nag dama waroon a fay genn wàll nag ci loolu.
Which I did not want to do, as that would have amounted to giving the credit of truth to a lie.
te loolu dafa mel ni maa ngi bugg a dëggal ay fen.
On 16 November 1996,
fukki fan ak juróom benn ci weeri November 1996.
I caused to be issued a suit in the Supreme Court, now High Court.
ma dal dina def na benn kaame ci ci court bu mag bi.
For a declaration that the alleged tax liability was invalid and or contrary to the relevant law.
pour nag ne liñ ma teg ne loolu laa am ci wàlli naama loolu du dëgg tey tamit dëppwut ak yoon.
And an injunction to restrain the Commission of Income Tax from reassessing and or raising any assessment against me for any part of the period 1979 to 1989.
te tamit ñu seet nag li nga xam ne nii mooy li ma gàddu depuis 1979 ba 1989.
But my case was struck out by the court on 12 March 1995 that it had no jurisdiction.
waaye nag suma tawat boobu na dañ ko génne ci court bi.
The jurisdiction of the court was ousted by the decree.
te ndax nag jurisdiction ni court bi degree bi moo ko génne.
We would come back to that, huh?
Yeah. By writ of
but how did you feel when the court gave a finding that they had no jurisdiction over the matter because of the ouster clause?
That was the judge's interpretation of the decree.
But how did you feel when...
I felt absolutely bad, absolutely distressed, because by decisions made by Lord Denning, I know that there were authorities to the fact that the court's jurisdiction cannot be ousted by any decree. Lord Denning made a series of judgments about...
Starting from Anis Minik?
Yes. Thank you, Counsel. So by writ of Fascis, dated 9 January 1996, the Inspector General of Police was commanded to seize and sell that of my goods and chattels found anywhere within the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, and caused to be levied the sum of $1,562,696.28 butus, and also interest and cost of execution, which sum was by order of the Commission adjudged on 12 December 1995 to be paid by me. Dissatisfied with the said judgment of the Supreme now High Court, dated 12 March 1996, I filed a notice of appeal in the Gambia Court of Appeal, dated 21 day of March 1996. In sympathy with me, a fellow Salum brother and well-wisher, Alaji Gabi Sose, expressed to me his willingness to find the means, even if it means having to sell a property in Kutu, to pay the alleged tax liability. But I refuse. In that would amount to giving the credit of truth to a lie. Then there followed threats to my life of being found 6 feet deep in the ground. The threat was first announced on Radio Gambia. The chairman has said all those advocating human rights, especially those who have just been sacked out of the government, may have to keep their mouths shut or they'll find themselves 6 feet deep. I did not pursue the appeal.
As a result of?
Well,
by reason of?
Not by reason of fear, but by reason of survival. On 11 January 1996, Mr. Yankuba Sonko,
November 1996 Yankuba Sonko.
Officer commanding Combo Division.
Kilifa gi jiite na Combo Division.
Led a team of police officers.
Mu jiite ay police.
Served me with an order of attachment of an eviction from my property at 45 Kairaba Avenue, Fajara.
Na génn nag ci suma kër gi nekk ci 45 Kairaba Avenue.
Who issued that order?
Gali, Justice Al-Gali was chairman of the commission.
Justice Al-Gali, the chairman of the commission.
So yes, it was a commission order and not a high court order?
No, it was a commission order signed by Justice Al-Gali, including all my household furniture that I invented. My household fittings, fixtures, and equipment, as well as my Peugeot 505 motor car, G1A 8595, and even my young son's electric kettle, which was given to him by his mother. We took an inventory of the household furniture and equipment, and Sonko pointed out that my G1A 8590 was also attached. I have a copy of the inventory. I'll just refer to it briefly. A, living room, 2 sets of furniture, one settee, 4 armchairs, 1 center table. 1 settee, 3 armchairs, 1 center table, 5 stools, 2 fiberglass chairs. Study, 1 desk, 3 chairs. Kitchen, dining room, dining table, 1 dining table, 4 dining chairs, 1 electric kettle, 1 refrigerator. D, kitchen store, 125-gallon hot water tank. E, master bedroom, 1 bed, 1 mattress, 2 wash basins, 1 toilet, 1 bidet, 1 shower and tray, 1 bathtub, 2 wall mirrors. F, bedroom 2, 1 bed, 1 mattress. Bedroom 3, 2 toilet.
Mr. Mbai,
bedroom 2. Pardon?
Would you be content to just provide us with the document?
Yes.
Also, which, as it contains all the items.
It's not long. Let me just.
Okay. Proceed, please.
Bedroom 2 toilet, 1 wash basin, 1 flush toilet, 1 bathtub, 1 50-gallon hot water tank. Bedroom 3, 1 bed, 1 mattress. Bedroom 3 toilet, 1 wash basin, 1 flush toilet, 1 bathtub. Bedroom 4, 2 study tables, 2 chairs, 1 shoe rack. Guest room, 1 bed, 1 mattress. Guest toilet, 1 shower, 1 wash basin, 1 flush toilet, 1 bidet. Visitors toilet, 1 wash basin, 1 flush toilet, 1 bidet. Boys quarters, 1 water tank, 1 flush toilet, 1 bidet, 1 shower, 1 wash basin, 1 tank. This was the inventory they took before they evicted me from my house. Actually, when Sonko came, I was praying the 2 o'clock prayers. And my son, who was now used to the police coming in and out and arresting me, came to my bedroom and said, Papa, police young fide, police young fide.
My son rushed to my bedroom and told me that the police are here.
Before I finished praying, the maid has finished lunch and was served on the table. We gave the food to Sonko and his policemen, and they had their lunch. We didn't. My children packed their things in their school bags, and I sent one to the grandmother, and the other to the grandmother in Tipakunda, and the other 2 to the grandmother in Banjul. Then I stood at my gate. From the house I have built over a period of over 14 years. As I came out, if I saw my grave, I would have walked into it. But immediately I saw Basiru Jawara driving off, heading towards Fajara Hotel. I immediately took the next taxi and chased him up to Fajara. As he came out of his car, I was coming out of the taxi. He said, Alaji, how are you? I said, I'm not well. I said, they've evicted me from my house. He said, do you want greenhouse? He sat on the Bahama grass. He sat on the Bahama grass with his white safari suit. And suddenly rose up and said, Dabo, 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 Dabo. Dabo was the manager of the hotel, Fajara Hotel. Give Fafa Mbai the best suit in the hotel. I stayed in Fajara for 4 years with my son.
Mr. Mbai, how did you feel at that point when Mr. Jawara behaved in that manner? He must have been very shocked and disappointed at what happened to you.
He in fact said it. He said he never put anything beneath the military, but didn't expect that they would do such a thing to me. Basiru kept me in the house and protected me and for 4 years. He would come at breakfast time, very early. Let them set a table for breakfast. He said, call Fafa Mbai and his son. And we'd have breakfast together. He would come at lunchtime for the same reason. And dinner for the same reason. Sometimes he would come to the hotel at 10 o'clock and keep me company up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes he will come at 2 o'clock in the morning until daybreak. Sometimes they will change my rooms. I would be in the flat. I would be in the main building. I didn't know why he was doing that. One day, whilst the impeachment of President Clinton was on, he came to the TV room and asked to see me. We went to the car park. We went to the car park. He pulled out a key of an R21 motor vehicle.
R21 motor.
Renault 21. Take this car. You cannot do your work without a car. I had already returned to my Fana practice. And at the beginning, he would come very early in the morning to drive me all the way to Heath Street. Even if I said, no, I'm just going to the corner shop here, he said, no, let me drive you. Eventually, he gave me a car. The condition of R21 was better than the G1A85 they took from me. R21, Renault 21, but he protected me and gave me comfort at a very difficult time. One day, when I was giving my daughter, my only daughter, in marriage in 2018, that was when he publicly revealed during the time that I was at the hotel, Yaya Jammeh sent on 3 occasions 8 military officers for him to surrender me to him. Basiru said at the ceremony at the Tahwa Mosque here near the stadium that he refused and was ready to stake his life for me. I cannot thank Basiru enough. Especially Basiru and his wife, Fatima Jawara. His entire family. The entire staff of Fajara Hotel. For not only accommodating me, but protecting me and giving me sanctuary. Basiru Jawara is a good man. When I eventually was to leave the hotel, he pleaded with me to stay.
mu ñaan ma nag ma pour ma toog.
It was not safe
óorutoon.
for me to leave the hotel.
pour ma génn ci hôtel bi.
But I didn't know what he was going through.
waaye nag xam moom lan la doon daj.
All this military office asking for my surrender.
soldat yooyu yëpp ñu daan yónni pour ñu rek mu jébbale ma.
Remember, he said, Jammeh told him that the only way that you will not surrender Fafa is to ask him to support me.
lenn rek mooy tax nga xam ne noonu joxe Fafa mooy ren pour mu.
He said, how can Fafa support you when you have killed him?
naka la Fafa di ànd ak yow gannaaw boo xamee ne rey nga ko.
Mr. Mbai,
yes.
Do you realize not only were you killed, but there were lots of other Gambians who were also killed using the same weapon?
Yes. Nekkut na yow rek lañ rey de waaye am na waa Gambie yu bari yoo xam ne rey nañ leen te benn nañ jëfandu di leen jëfu.
The description of what happened to you,
ni nga waxee li nga xam ne moo la dal.
it's almost identical with what happened to a lot of other Gambians. And I can recall Uncle Badu Fai of Fajara, of Cape of Pipeline. They were all evicted from homes that they have built themselves.
dafa nuroo ak yu ci bari yoo xam ne niñ la def noonu lañ def seen borom mun naa cee joxe kenn sax misaal mooy Uncle Badu Fai moom it tamit dañ ko génnee këram ci kër goo xam ne tampana ko ay ati at.
Yes.
And the thing is, the irony of the matter is all these rights violations happened as a result of the military decrees that were passed during the early days of Jammeh.
lii yëpp nag li ko waral mooy loi soldat yi nga xam ne tëraloon nañ ko ci jamono yi nga xam ne Jammeh toog na ees.
You agree with that?
Yes, I agree.
waaw ànd naa ci.
And a lot of those decrees were passed while you were Attorney General.
Well, I'll come to the degrees and how they develop and my position on them.
Perhaps we could deal with them now, and then afterwards we could deal with the rest.
I have dealt with it. I've dealt with it as my last paragraph. And
as your last paragraph.
With your permission,
I'd rather we deal with that now, and then we deal with the issue of the tax commissions and other things, other shenanigans by the other, how do you call it, the mercenary judges and so forth. So if you agree, we would deal with the issue of the decrees now.
Yeah, okay. I didn't make the decrees.
Degree duul man maa ko def.
And I didn't draft the decrees.
Binduma degree yooyu.
My role as Attorney General was to be the advisor, legal advisor.
Man suma wàll nag ne maay ministre bi saytu woon wàlli loi bi moo doon rek pour di ko yedda.
The procedure in the development of these decrees was as follows.
Anam gi nga xam ne noonu lañ jëloon pour lu jëm ci wàlli ni ñu sampee degree yooyu noonu la nii lañ ko tëddalee woon.
The ministry or minister under whose portfolio a particular issue was to be made a decree.
Ministry bi wala minister bi nga xamee ni ci ronam fi lañ war a doxale degree bi.
Would be required in cabinet to submit a cabinet paper.
Danañ ko sàkku nag ci cabinet bi pour mu indi nag benn cabinet paper.
And the issue would be discussed.
Fànn boobu ñu waxtaanee ko.
Then it would go to the council.
Mu dal da dem nag ci council bi.
And the council will discuss it.
Ñu waxtaanee ko.
And then when it is agreed that a decree be provided,
buñ àndee nag nangu ne waaw boobu dañ ko mën a doxal ci loi di degree bi.
The ministry which initiated the idea, because that is under its portfolio,
minister bi nga xam ne moo indi woon xalaat boobu ndax ci ronam la nekk.
will work with the drafting section of the Ministry of Justice.
Dana jokkoo ak Ministry of Justice pour ñu liggéey nag li nga xam noonu la ñu bindee mbir moom.
And a decree would be drafted on that issue.
Bu ko wee nag degree bi danañ ko bind na ci fànn boobu.
Then it will be brought to cabinet.
ñu indi ko cabinet pour ñu seetu ko.
If it is approved by cabinet, it goes to the council.
Lii nag dana ko nangu nag di cabinet bi bu ko defee mu dem ci council bi.
Then the council will decide.
Bu ko council bi nag daal di ci bàyyi seen xalaat.
That was the procedure.
Loolu nag moo nekkoon anam yi.
As Attorney General, you were obviously a member of cabinet, but were you also a member of the council?
I was a member of the council also.
Bokkoon naa ci council bi it.
I would like to...
So therefore, for all those decrees that were passed during your tenure, your participation in it was at several levels. Yes. One at cabinet level, two at the Ministry of Justice level, and three at the council level when it is finally decided and signed by the chairman.
Yes.
But
as I said in my last paragraph, I would have wished to develop up to that point. But as you brought it, yes. I'd like to refer to it straight away.
Yes, go ahead.
I said, I am aware that it is being said that I was the person who drafted most of the draconian decrees used by the AFPRC to oppress the people. I want to make it very clear for the record that I did not draft any one of those decrees. And where issues relating to the decrees arose, I always made it a point to advise against abuses and violations of human rights. For the interest of the nation, I did my best efforts to guide the AFPRC, but such efforts were frustrated early on when they realized that the good deeds I was trying to achieve for the nation were against their personal interests. In particular, self-perpetuation. I accept, even if at the beginning, they generally did hold the good intention for the nation. This did not last long. And as such, I also did not last long with them. That is my position on the decrees. I was an advisor, but I didn't make the decision. And my advice was against human rights violations. Because my advice was not invariably accepted, I became unpopular, and that's where the divide started. My stand, human rights, good governance, democracy, remain indivisible throughout.
That said, Mr. Mbai, let's go through some of these decrees so that we can identify some of the difficulties and problems with these decrees.
And
the first one I would like to refer to is the state security, detention of security personnel and police. Detention of armed and police personnel decree.
I don't have them all, but I'll listen.
I can send it over to you so you can take a look at it. I have that here, and the point I just wish to flag with this particular decree is the restriction on the use of habeas corpus. I have my sticker notes in it. Perhaps you may just focus on the part that is open.
On habeas corpus.
Yes. You see that there is a provision there restricting the use of habeas corpus. And would you agree that this is in fact the last hope of people to free themselves from disappearance and to free themselves from unlawful detention? And this provision is suspended, which is a direct attack on human rights or the protection thereof.
Yes, it is on human rights.
Yes. And
in a normal government.
That's right.
But not in a military state.
Yes, but this was...
Even in England, during the war, by Regulation 13, these legal facilities were not available.
Yes, but that was in a situation of dire national security consideration. This was a war between enemies. And that time it was fashionable not to accord certain protections to enemy combatants. But this is about your citizens,
yes,
the citizens of the state.
I'm not defending this. I agree with you. I'm not defending it.
Yes.
I'm explaining it.
That's right.
But I advise against human rights abuses.
That's right.
But I didn't make the decision.
That's right. But on this
my role was to advise, and I did. On
this particular occasion, did you protest the inclusion of this provision restricting the applicability of habeas corpus?
I protested against not only this, but against all those provisions in any decree that violated human rights.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you pass it? We would be doing this, Uncle Fafa, a bit by this back and forth, because we need to put all these things on the record. The Gambian people need to know what happened and who did what and things like that.
I agree.
Thank you. I take you also to the local government authorities. This is the dissolution and appointments decree. I mean, we had an entire local government structure. We could not necessarily.
The first decree, what was the date? The first one you referred to.
That was on 4th of August. I'm just taking, yes, 4th of August. That should not be applicable to you.
Excuse me, 4th of August.
Yes, your appointment was 8th of August.
8th of August.
That's
so
right.
I could not respond for that.
Yes.
I was not even there to advise on that at the time.
That's true. This one is on 10th August, the appointments. The dissolution of, complete dissolution of the local government structure. We had a working local government structure.
Amon nañ fi nak lo xamne ñu ko taxawalon ci wali mbiri nguur yu ndaw yi moy chef yi ak alkali yi yu mel nonu.
I think this was, apart from the suspension of the constitution, this was the greatest change in the administrative structure of this country. Through this decree, by a few sentences, the entire system of local government administration was put to an end. And Yahya Jammeh giving the power to put whosoever he wanted in local government.
Ci lañ daxa nak lepp lo xamne mo aju won ci wali doxalini nguur yu ndaw yi dal di dolel nak Yahya Jammeh nga xamne mom moy tok rek set ku ko neex mu tanal def la fa.
I was born in the provinces.
Ma ngi juddo ci kaw gi.
And worked for the area councils from George Basse to Georgetown to Birkama.
Liggéeyal area council yi Basse Georgetown Birkama.
When in 1965.
To 1965.
Georgetown won the Municipal Local Government Seal for responsibility and efficiency.
ñoom ñoo gagné woon nag li nga xam ne nii mooy médaille ci liggéey boobu.
Because of the good work we did at the Georgetown Area Council.
ndeg liggéey bu rafet bi nga xam ne ni def nañ ko ci Georgetown.
I was the executive officer and Mr. Salifu Cham, the commissioner.
Salifu Cham, the commissioner bi.
Because it was independent here.
ndeg mu ngi independent fii.
Normally these award sheets are presented at chiefs conferences.
Chiefs conference.
Because of the chiefs with the independence, it was presented to Georgetown by the minister Sirif Mustafa Diba. When I was in Birkama, we were responsible from Kalaji to Denton Bridge.
Because
Kanifing Municipal Council, which was then Kanifing Urban District Council, was under the management of the Birkama Area Council. Not only having been born in the provinces and appreciating the mechanism for local government, but having served at the age of 20, 21, 22, as executive officer in 3 successive area councils in the country. My interest in local government went to the extent that in my bar, local government planning and planning in my bar examinations.
local government planning exam.
So I appreciate the importance of local government in any administration.
Local government administration.
This decree is dated 10th August 1994.
1994.
The process of it up to this date must have been before I took office as Attorney General.
All the
same, I agree. It was bad law. But I was not there to make any influence on this. Not even to advise. Which I consistently did for decrees that were passed during the time that I was Attorney General.
On the same day, another decree was passed suspending political activities. By one line, all political activities in this country was suspended, was banned.
If it was passed on the 10th of August,
yes,
I was not there to make an influence on this.
Okay.
Secondly, it would have been, it is not unusual. Without defending it, it is not unusual for political activities to be suspended in a military government. That's the nature of military government. And my interest in serving them was to reduce these situations.
Well, they claim to have been soldiers with a difference.
Yes.
Supposedly in a very positive way. But they did all the terrible things that bad military governments did. In fact, I am here looking at the political activities suspension decree, which is decree number 8.
Decree number 8
of the same date, in which targeted individuals were barred from even traveling within the country. You may want to take a look at that one too. I know you said these decrees were passed on 10th August. That was 2 days or 3 days into your appointment.
Yeah, into my appointment, but the process must have started.
Must have started.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could not have even been present when these decrees were considered. And the process leading to these decrees and these decrees were considered. I was not even there. But yes, as a student of political science, I do not agree with them. And my stand, where I was able to make it, was to argue against abuse of human rights. My interest and passion in joining the military government was to save the country from these sort of things. And as a result of that, nobody has suffered more than I did, except those who lost their lives. That didn't deviate me from my stand firm as an advocate of the rule of law and the observance of democracy and the observance of the rule of law, human rights and good governance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbai. We have to go through.
Councillor, the targeted individuals named.
Yes.
Can you just read that?
This was legislation designated mainly.
Decree.
Sorry, yes, decree designated for Omar C, Hassan B. Jallo, Omar A. Jallo, Yaya Sise, Aliu E.W.F. Baji, Landing Jallo, Sonko Sadio Toure, Mbemba Jata, Matu Yaya Balde, Bubakar Balde, Alkali James Gay, ministers, former ministers of the Jawara government. They could not depart or travel from the country. They cannot disseminate any propaganda or participate in any political activities.
Li mom loi la bo xamne ne dañ ko jël tek ko ci ñim lim ni nekkon nañ ay ministre ci nguuri Jawara ba bala mo jël nguur gi ne ñi dal dañ leen téré tukki sax ci biir réew mi duñ ko mëna def.
And on 28 August, the decree was passed on preservation of evidence.
Ñaar fukki fan ak juroom ñett nak ci lañ daldi feñal nak decree bi daldi ci laxana li nga xamne modi sédé yi.
This decree imposed a travel ban on some people.
Li mom dafa téré ñenn pour buñ tukki.
Prohibited people from removing documents.
Téré na nit ñi tam pour ñu génné yena ci ay kayit.
And Mr. Mbai, you also became a victim of this particular decree.
Yes, my memoranda, the documents, I was prevented from taking them. Not only the memoranda, but the copy of the draft constitution, 1996. The copy
draft constitution be ak kayit yoy nga xamne dañ signé won yoy yep téré won nañ ma pour ma jël.
Copies of the decrees which were in my office.
Indeed. Did you protest, Mr. Mbai, against this decree?
I protested against any and all decrees which violated human rights.
And
the minute, the cabinet minute, when these proposals or ideas were discussed, would bear me out of my protest, to the extent that I was called the Human Rights Attorney General.
Human Rights Attorney General.
If we can access the cabinet meetings of that period for the time that I was there, the council minutes, when I was there, that would be sufficient to share my stand on these issues of human rights.
We would make an effort to see whether those documents could be available, but in the meantime, let's just continue the exercise and go through those decrees that were passed during your time as Attorney General, just for the record.
But the first two were not.
Yes, the date is duly noted. Thank you very much.
Even before I...
Thank you very much. And this one was passed on 20th August 1994. Is a restriction on transfer of assets. And Section 2 says, no sale, lease, mortgage, transfer, or other alienation, as the case may be, of any asset specified in Part 1 of this schedule, being an asset owned wholly or part, or controlled directly or indirectly by any of the persons specified in Part 2 of this schedule, shall be valid unless the sale, lease, transfer, or other alienation is made with the prior approval in writing of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council. Very far-reaching, quite draconian, you would agree.
Yes. I do not explain or justify the rationale for these decrees. I remember my protest against human rights violations as my anthem throughout the period I was there as Attorney General.
But you would agree that this particular provision caused untold suffering.
I will not deny it. I wouldn't say I will agree, but I will not deny it.
And perhaps I should make reference to this last one, and then we call it a day until tomorrow. The AMRC decree.
Decree AMRC.
That was decree number 10. Another terrible decree. Mr. Mbai, you protested against ouster clauses.
Yes.
This decree has one important ouster clause. And let me read it. here it says, where the corporation has made a conveyance or an assignment in exercise of the power of sale, the title of the purchaser shall not be impeachable on the ground that no case had arisen to authorize the sale, or that the power is otherwise improperly or irregularly exercised. But any person damnified by an improper or irregular exercise of the power shall have his remedy in damages against the corporation. So if they sell your property, you cannot challenge that. All you have is a right against AMRC. You cannot prevent that sale from going through. The court's jurisdiction to inquire into the regularity of that is completely taken away.
But there was the AMRC Act. That was an amendment to the Act.
That's right. It's an amendment to the Act, making it, in fact, more draconian.
Yes.
It
opened the door for blatant violation of rights.
And led to increasing frustration.
And tomorrow when we come back, we would look at decree number 11. Maybe you should take a list so you can take a look at these. Decree number 11. Decree number 13. That is the NIA decree, the establishment. And then decree 14, public assets recovery. Then decree 15. Decree 16, Decree 17, Decree 25, Decree 26, and last but not least, Decree 27. On that note, Mr. Chair, perhaps we should...
I wouldn't have copies of these decrees.
I can...
Let me finish. I wouldn't have copies of these decrees. But these and the previous ones, by these decrees and the ones we've just mentioned, my stand on human rights remain the same. And my argument against these decrees or the violations of human rights are well documented if you can find the minutes to the cabinet meetings and the council meetings.
We will make an effort to get them.
And I also suffered. I also suffered as a result of some of these decrees.
Yes.
So they could not have been decrees that I supported because I knew the consequences which I eventually suffered. But my stand was the same. I was an advisor. As Attorney General, I was a legal advisor, and I argued against violations of human rights, but I did not make the decision. The decision was by the Armed Forces Military Council. I was there as an ex-officio member and an advisor, and my advice became the anthem of my stand against violations of human rights and the rule of law.
Indeed. So, Mr. Mbai, you have the list of the decrees. If you need to have a copy, I can let you have a copy.
No, I need not. I need not. Okay. I said I didn't have copies, but I need not. My stand remained the same.
Okay.
From the beginning, I joined the AFPRC up to the end when my appointment was terminated.
So tomorrow,
and my stand on this led to the termination of my appointment, as would be developed according to the statement I have already made.
That's right. So tomorrow we would discuss these decrees further, and then we would come back into your statement, and then we finalize everything.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Kodoke. One quick question. You did not draft any of these decrees, I think you had asserted.
Yes.
The best of your recollection, who drafted them? If they weren't drafted by you, presumably they weren't drafted in the AG's chambers either. If they weren't drafted there, who could have drafted these for Jame to sign?
No, we have a drafting division in the Attorney General's chambers. And even in the civilian government state, all laws, all proposed laws are drafted because of their technical expertise by the drafting division of the Attorney General's Chambers.
am nañ kuréel goo xam ne nii ñoom ñooy saytu nag lu jëm ci wàllu bind nag luwaay yi ba ci nguur ak civil sax am nañ ko.
If they say they were drafted at the Attorney General's Chambers, that is simple enough to accept. But if I say, as the story goes, that I drafted these draconian decrees, that would not be true.
But the ultimate responsibility you would take?
As Attorney General?
Yes.
Yes, but against my stand.
Okay.
That has been well pronounced in the cabinet and council meetings. And the effort I made practically during the period that I was there. And my stand led to my dismissal and all the sufferings I went through.
Indeed.
And having regard to the background elaborated in the 2 memoranda before I accepted office to serve.
By the way, if Jammeh had them
rejected, against that background of my stand.
If Jammeh had them not signed, especially the second one, would you have accepted the appointment?
Jammeh?
If he had said no to your conditions, appointment, would you have accepted the appointment?
That would have been the end of the story. No,
Indeed,
I insisted.
indeed,
I even insisted that in my letter of appointment, and I have it here. Where is it? Letter appointment. Appointment. Just a minute, Mr. Chairman. You see that in 1982,
atom
1982, when the Gambia was the champion of human rights in the Commonwealth.
Si jamono bi nga xamé Gambia nak ñom ñoo amone drapeau ci mbiri ak doom adama ci Commonwealth.
My appointment dated 12 May 1982.
Mona letal bo xamné ñu mako bind fukki fan ak ñaar ci wéri May 1982.
Did not in any way
di wérali tamen
point out that human rights could be part of my portfolio.
Ne mbiri ak yelle fi doom adama dal du nek suma ron liggéey.
Noticing this,
bi mako gisé nak
having regard to the military offer to be the Attorney General.
Nga xamné ni bokk na ci lima soldat yi denk nak di ministre bi saytu wali loi ak atté ci réew mi.
I insisted
ma dingat
that human rights
ne akki doom adama
would be part of the portfolio in my ministry.
Dana bokk nak ci li jëm ci wali suma liggéey.
The mention of human rights in my letter of appointment
pour nag ñi nga xam ne nii mu ngi jëm si niñ ko feeñal ci biir ak doom aadama ci suma leetar boobu
8 August 1994
ni ki juróom-ñetti fan ci weeru August 1994
and the absence of it in my letter of appointment
ak ni nga xam ne ni nekkul ute na ci suma leetar boobu 1994
of 12 May 1982
ak fukki fan ak ñaar ci weeru mai 1982
emphasized my insistence on human rights issues.
Dal di woon na nekk loo xam ne nii li ma gën a dingat lu aju ci wàlli ak
Both letters are available and can be seen by the commission.
Leetar yëpp ñu ngi nii te commission bi mën na koo gis.
So if the conditions in my memorandum of understanding were refused,
kon bu fekkee ne nag li nga xam ne ni loolu laa bind ci nangatoo yi ma doon def pour jël liggéey boobu dañ ko bañoon
that would have been the end of the story.
Konoon ni may tamit foofu la mbir ma doon em.
Good. Thank you very much indeed for that clarification. We will resume our proceedings tomorrow morning, sharp 10 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned.